Yeah. Broken and shattered, but the crash never shaped what mattered. Grace fills the gaps where your life lost traction. This is the edge, where transformation happens. Where transformation happens.
This is the edge, where transformation happens.
Hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you're on
The
Edge. Hey guys and gals, good to be back with you again.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's been a while, and we're recording this.
And I miss you guys when I don't get to come on here and blabber at you for a little while.
And it has been a little while. We're recording this in early April, but I think this episode is scheduled, if I know my schedule is right, and to go live April 29th.
Okay.
So towards the end of April. This is after our single drops on April 17th, and close to when The Edge is going to go worldwide, which I think will be sometime in mid-May, something
Edge
like
the
that.
song,
Not the podcast.
The podcast has been
going
strong
for a while.
now.
So the song will go out worldwide sometime in middle of May, I think is when that's going to be. And let's go ahead and do this now, because everybody's going to ask why you didn't do it. Doggy Cam there,
Yes.
Brody. Oh, hey, Brody.
Hey,
Brody, say hi to your fans. Brody, come here. Turn around here, boy.
Look at Daddy.
Hey, Brody.
He
Hey, Brody.
cooperates.
Oh, you're turning around the wrong way.
He's doing the hokey pokey.
Yeah, and turn himself about. Hey, all you out there, you need to turn yourself about too. Okay, that's enough for Brody. All right. Hey, we've got a great guest for you all today, and you may know him because this guy's been around and about himself.
Yeah.
Bryan Kelley, he's the Outreach and Engagement Director at Crosswalk Center. Yeah. He's the former Executive Director of the Hub Community Center and the former CEO of the PEP program.
Okay.
He's also a husband, a speaker, mentor, and sponsor, elder, homeowner, and a proud returning citizen himself. And he's now living the abundant life and giving voice. And I love this sign with this thing here. He says he's giving voice to the muffled multitude who are still living in shackles and chains. And so we're going to say, welcome to The Edge, Bryan Kelley. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to The Edge, Bryan.
Hi, Bryan.
Hey.
It's a pleasure to be here, Bill and Stephanie. You guys got such an outreach. I love talking with everybody. It's just an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you. Yeah. You've got quite the storied background. You've been around the block a few times, huh?
I've been around the block a time or two, more ways than one.
I know that's right. So how long ago was it that you was a returning citizen? It's been a while, huh?
Well, yeah, I got out in 2014, so I guess I've been out almost 12 years. It's been amazing. I've had a life sentence, so I'm still on parole. Still have that shackle around the foot, so to speak. But man, life is it's just incredible, exceedingly abundantly above everything I could have hoped for and dreamt for.
Mm-hmm. That is incredible, because there are some people that think that life parole means that you're done.
Yeah,
I've heard that from more than one person while I was inside myself, and I've heard it from more than one person. We get it in the mail.
Yeah,
they think that means they're done for life.
Well, even those that aren't think their life is over. Just and it's so important to see people that are out here that have been inside and have come out and that are killing it out here.
And you are killing it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a poor choice of words. but
we're rebranding that term, right?
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, in the nicest of ways. Yeah, in the best ways possible.
Yeah.
But dude, CEO of we're not talking about CEO of mom and pop's ice cream truck.
Yeah.
We're talking about PEP. Yeah. I mean, dude, that's a huge organization.
Sure is.
And you don't come out from prison and having gone through PEP and overnight you're running that thing, unless you got a lot going on. So you got a little bit going on between your ears there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can look at my previous life and really question that. But I would say God can do some pretty amazing things when you hand him the broken pieces of your life. He can create a masterpiece.
That's right.
Amen. Amen. And what were the steps to doing that, Bryan?
Well, they were myriad, but I think the very first one was ownership. When I went to trial, I remember standing there in the Dallas courtroom, everybody looking at me with hatred and condemnation. And the judge looked at me over his glasses and with a southern drawl said, "Mr. Kelley, a jury of your peers has found you guilty of the crime of murder and sentenced you to life in a state penitentiary. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" And Bill, I stood there trembling and I was frantically trying to come up with something that would explain how my life had devolved in such a catastrophe. And, it was baffling even to me. And I wanted to talk about, my father taking off when I was a child and no man raised me up to show me what being an honorable man was. And I was surrounded by alcoholism and dysfunction. And I made a bunch of poor choices and was never really held accountable. And all these myriad things were racing through my mind. But I realized that, bringing up any of those things is going to be viewed kind of as crocodile tears. And so I realized, I just need to own this. And so I kept my mouth shut and I realized I'd given my voice away. And so I was given that life sentence. And at that time, Texas didn't have life without parole. Life sentence was calculated at 60 years. I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was going to prison forever. That's what I believed that day. And about a year into my incarceration, I went to a Christian ministry called Kairos. I was invited by another inmate, and I had never even heard of it. I said, "Kairos, what's that?" And he told me it's 4 days of home cooked meals.
Yeah,
like,
that's all you need to
please
hear,
sign
right?
me up, please.
Yeah.
And man, I got fed so much more than I bargained for in those 4 days. And I don't know, just being around those godly men who were loving, encouraging, equipping, but yet still firm and strong. I'd never been around men like that. The men I was around, worked hard, cussed hard, drank hard, treated their women hard. I thought that's what being a man was. And so I'm poking and prodding, asking questions. And one guy really won my trust. And I pulled him aside one day. And, I had lied at trial. I had lied to my family. I'd lied to my friends. And I was even lying to the inmates at the Beto unit. And I couldn't carry that lie anymore. I couldn't carry that darkness. So I puked it all out and I told him everything about my crime. And he listened to me so patiently. And he said, "Bryan, number one, I am honored that you would share that with me first. I get the gravity of what you just told me. And now I want to tell you something. I want you to listen to me. I forgive you."
Wow. Yeah.
They're like rumble. Because I didn't dare think anybody was ever going to tell me those words. And he let me wipe the snot off my face and get it back together. And he said, "Although I forgive you, you need to ask God to forgive you. And guess what? He will." And I go, "Yeah, Keith, I hear you, but I can't." And he looked at me and he goes, "I don't understand. Why not?" And I said, "I don't deserve forgiveness. I deserve this or worse. I'll take my medicine." And he looked at me and he got this smirk on his face and he actually chuckled. And he goes, "Wow, I didn't realize when I came here this weekend, I was going to meet somebody that was smarter than God."
Yeah.
And I went, "Hold on, dude. I didn't say that." He said, "You sure did. You admitted God would forgive you if you ask him. But of course, you know how to handle this better than he does. How has that played out in your life, Bryan?" And I'm like, "Well, it hasn't. My life's a mess." And he goes, "Exactly. God knows this anyway. Why are you trying to hold on to it?" I'm like, "Well, that's what I've always done. I've always hidden things inside." And he goes, "That's not worked out well. Let's put this in the light. Let's give that to him." And so May 28th, 1994, I just got down on my knees and I said, "Here, God, it's the broken pieces of my life. You do something with it." And it didn't get me out of the consequences of my crime. I'd still do another 20 years after that date. But boy, I knew I was on a different path and living for a different purpose.
And shout out to Kairos, because just for their steadfastness and their persistence. I don't know how long they've been around, but it's been a long time, and I can only imagine the amount of people that they've been able to reach. Some of the hardest to reach people.
Amen.
For God, and it's amazing because those people turn around. So many of them, Bill, you, and they become ministers and servants themselves, and that to me just speaks volumes.
Yeah, I was at the table of St. Luke back in the day.
Yeah.
I was
At
at the table of
Ballard
St.
Unit.
John.
you
And
go.
you made me think of someone that I met when I was at the Ramsey unit, and he knows who he is. And I want to take this opportunity to apologize to all of the brothers and sisters. We normally do shout outs, and we were recently told by the folks at Pando that we can't do that anymore. The Department of Corrections is cracking down on one-to-one communications, that's frowned upon. So we can't do shout outs by names to individuals at units. So this person probably knows who I'm thinking of. Your life sentence is probably speaking volumes to this individual, because he's coming up for parole soon, and there are probably a lot of men and women with those lengthy sentences that are coming up for parole soon, and they're wondering, am I going to be able to function? How am I going to do this? And so your story is going to mean a lot to them. They're going to look to your story to say, if he can, I can. At least I hope they do, because I think that you will agree with me, because I know that I'm nothing special. I'm not that extra special box of chocolates.
I think you're special.
Oh, thank you, baby. But you're biased.
Yeah.
God did to your eyes so that you would think that. But that God would do something for me that he wouldn't do for any of his children, right? And so if he did it for me, he'll do it for them, right?
Indeed.
And so I want to hear more about your walk then, when you got out, when you hit the pavement. You had gone through PEP, I assume. And then you did something when you got out. How did that go? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm somewhat seasoned in the 20 years that I walked on the inside. God did some amazing things. I earned a 4-year degree in psychology. I was in recovery that whole time. I don't know how many times I've done a 4th step and confession on the 5th step, and made some amends. And my first 4th step was 90 pages. And then another inmate stepped up and discipled me. He was so strong doctrinally and theologically, and we lived together and we worked together. And every single day, we started out our day with the fundamentals of Christianity and how I was applying that in my life or failing to apply that in my life. And it was amazing. When the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that's exactly what happened. And then I just got involved as a peer educator, helping other men around me. I wanted to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I didn't know what that looked like. And so people had to come help me do that. And so in the fullness of time, I had tried to be a part of PEP as a peer educator at one juncture. I got to be there for a couple of months, but we were about to transfer to a pre-release facility, and the regional director wouldn't let me go because I had too much time to be housed on that unit. So I got sent back to the jungle. And some 8 years later, I came up for parole, my 13th time up. 12 times I had been told, you're doing everything just right. Keep it up. Denied. And the 13th time up, just cleared the 20-year mark. The parole commissioner was telling me what parole was going to be like for me when I got out. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, this dude's telling me I'm going home. And at the end, he said, Mr. Kelley, do you have any questions? And I said, yes, sir. I've got one. And I think he probably thought I was going to ask, are you going to vote for me? And instead, I looked at him. I said, will you give me parole next year? And he said, I don't understand. Are you asking me to stay in prison for another year after doing 20? And I said, well, it sounds kind of crazy when you say it that way, but yes, sir. And he said, why? Why would you do that? And I said, I desperately want to go through the Prison Entrepreneurship Program and develop a business idea that I've got and be connected to their volunteers who will help me hone that idea. But the only way I can do it is if you give me a hard release date for next year so I can be housed on that unit. And he stared at me for, I bet, 60 seconds without blinking. And he finally said, let me look into that. And he gave me exactly what I asked for. I bargained for an extra year in prison to go through PEP, to develop my plan, to connect with their volunteers, and then get out and go to their transitional house in Dallas after 22 years in prison. And then would eventually be offered a job and move up to CEO. I mean, those are the type of things I couldn't even make it up if I tried. But
And the
God is
occasional-
amazing.
God is amazing, but that's also it took a lot on your part, right? To those who have much to give, much is asked. So how many of you guys sitting in your cells right now would do the same, would say, leave me here another year so that I can prepare myself better and be in the right position that I need to be in to serve God the best?
I'll go you one better than that. I'm wondering how many of them broke their tablets right now.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's still a few jaws on the floor. Yeah, there's definitely still a few jaws on the floor.
I've never regretted that decision. I knew it was an investment in my future. And, from where I came from, there was nobody in my retinue in the past who was going to be able to invest in me like the people of this program would. And it was amazing. So I got out and went to Dallas, to their transitional house, which was a beautiful home, duplex, 3-bedroom with a fireplace. Just blew me away. And think about this. So I'd never sent an email. I'd never used a cell phone, a debit card, the internet. I mean, all that stuff was brand new, and to me at least. And I was just overwhelmed. And about a month out, PEP offered me a job as a case manager, helping men just like me when they get out. And I'm like, I've been locked up 22 years. What do I know about that? And they said, you're doing great. Show them what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can do that. That's what I've trained for 20 years. And so, as people poured into me, I poured into others. And that's what I found myself doing. That's what I was prepared for. After just a few months, I moved up to a management position. Then I was a property manager and then kind of the regional manager. After a few years, I switched over to the development side and had volunteer recruitment, fundraising. And after 5 years with PEP, I was positioned really well, and they offered me the CEO role to lead a company of 30 employees, about 2,000 volunteers, nearly 6,000 graduates, a budget of $4.5 million. It's a dream scenario, story. I'm serious. I could not have dreamed up and wrote on my own, no matter how creative.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. It boggles my mind.
The thing that I like that you did as well is you went to the right place. And that's another reason why it's so important that so many of these programs and reentry programs, not reentry houses, but reentry programs, especially Christian based, have a presence inside the prison so that inmates are aware of who they are. Because if you had put that kind of investment into a prison ministry that was, say, coming in and preaching on Sundays or Saturdays, and while they can help a little bit when they get out, their resources are primarily for people while they're still inside. So you went to the right place and set yourself up with the right people. And that was really important that you did that. You didn't just jump at the first thing. You carefully thought out which way you needed to go.
Stephanie, you bring up a really good point. Early on, after my conversion, I started seeking out other aspiring Christians, people who wanted to grow in their walk, who wanted desperately to make something positive out of their lives. And so I sought them out. I found my tribe, and I learned how to find my tribe wherever they were at. And so, I've been a part of a small group of men, being iron sharpening iron together. Anywhere I went, any unit that I went, and I am no longer willing to live without that. Wherever I go, I'm going to have my guys around me who are holding me accountable, who are making me better, who are champions for Bryan Kelley, and I'm champions for them.
Yes.
And I'm not going to do life without that anymore.
Yeah.
Amen, Brian. And I did the same thing when I was at Dalhart. My tribe, Charlie Martinez, he was my coworker, and he was a graduate of the Dallas Theological Seminary, and we were coworkers. We were SSIs, and we'd come out in the morning when before they'd open up the wing. We'd come out, put our Bibles down, we'd clean up the wing. They'd open up the wing. We'd sit down and we'd study all day long. And one day we'd do hermeneutics. The next day we do biblical Greek. The next day we do eschatology. The next day we do a book of the Bible, and so on. And every day it'd be something else, right? And James Landry would be there, and Robert Tier would be there. So we had this core group that was there every day, and I was there for 7 years. And my thing there was, it was my first ID unit. And my thing there was, I was a mess and I needed to get my walk right. And when I thought I knew who I was until I hit rock bottom. And then I knew I was messed up. And I started going to church there. And one day you'd go and you'd hear, you can't lose your salvation. And the next Sunday you'd go and, oh, you can lose your salvation. And then the next Sunday you'd go and you have to be baptized to be saved. And the next Sunday you'd go and you don't have to be baptized to be saved. And I realized I don't know anything about the Bible, or I don't know what to believe. So that's when I had to get this core group of people around me and figure out what do I believe and why, right? And I spent 7 years getting that all straightened out and getting my walk straight and figuring out who I was. And part of that also involved cognitive intervention, getting all my thinking errors taken care of. And I took cognitive intervention twice and then became the teacher's aide in the cognitive intervention class, became a peer educator teaching peer education. And after that 7 years, I got transferred to the Dalhart unit to get a degree at Clear Lake University of Houston Clear Lake in behavioral science. And then I started doing worship again. And my core group,
Ramsey.
Where did I say?
Dalhart.
Oh, yeah, I transferred from Dalhart to Ramsey. And then I started doing worship again and got my core group of guys around me there, Jason Hill, John Reyna, and Spencer, Jerry Spencer, and a few other guys. Well, Jason Hill and John Reyna, they're here in Houston. Yeah. They're still part of my core group.
Family
right?
Still today.
Yeah, still today. And so that's really important, getting those core group of solid believers around you. That is really important.
You mentioned that you've still got a lot of those guys around you, and I still do too. We went through the fire together. We were refined together. And, I mentioned the guy who stepped up and discipled me and others. We all worked together. We worked at the sign shop for about 12 years, and we started out every day, going over the different topical things that you just mentioned. And we refer back to that time as the sign shop seminary, because that's what we made it. We took advantage of our time that we had. It was a gift
we call it
to
college.
us.
We call it college when we were in college, and James Landry, he goes into prisons with us now,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very real. Okay. So now, and Stephanie was talking about how important it is to have that presence in prison and the outside presence. That's one of the things that I love about Crosswalk.
Yeah.
Tell us about how that is organized and your presence in prison, and how that leads to the transition out and into your transition facilities out here in various parts of Texas.
Sure. Well, I left the Prison Entrepreneurship Program about 2 years ago because it was going by way of scale and replication, and I think it needs to. It wanted to. That's not my background, so I'm probably not the right person to lead that charge. And so I stepped aside. And I came to Crosswalk, which is much more gospel forward, much more ministerial, and that's closer to who I am, and I'm excited to be a part of that. But I brought some of the great structure that we had at PEP, because it's a little bit more of a mature program, and I'm applying that at what we're doing at Crosswalk. And one of the big things that Crosswalk is that I think is so needed, it's both inside and out. So many people are one or the other, and I think it takes both. You plant seeds and you water on the inside, and then you prune and the vine on the outside, and then you harvest the fruit. And so it takes both of those and the continuity that comes with that. So we talk about Crosswalk being seamless reentry discipleship. So we walk with people for at least 6 months on the inside, and then follow through with. We've got 7 transitional houses in the Houston area, about 75 beds. We ask for a 9-month covenant, either male or female coming to us. We've got case management that walks with them those first few weeks to help with the documentation and food and clothes and the kind of the social services part of that. And then we invite volunteers to come in and really walk with them, the discipleship of walk with them, be their surrogate tribe until they learn to find their tribe or they go out and find their tribe. And so, it's the biblical model of discipleship, walking along with somebody. And I think it's so needed.
It really is. Describe for us a little bit about the program inside. And you're in various facilities, aren't you, in Texas?
Mm-hmm. We are. We're in 3 facilities in the Houston area on the men's side and 4 in the women, looking to grow that. We're about to launch an incentivized dorm at the Lynchner facility. And I think this is going to be a prototype of the direction we want to go forward. And I'm working on a brand new curriculum. Our curriculum in the past has been hyper focused on discipleship. And we go through 3 books: Be, Go, and Make, and then talk a lot about reentry. But we're really reforming this to be a couple of phases, a couple of 40-week phases. The first phase of which, first bucket of which is around your spiritual identity. Most of us in prison have been operating out of a false identity that we formed through pain, through past failures, through fears, through who the world or the enemy told us we were. Mm-hmm. So we start acting as robber, murderer, addict, alcoholic, criminal, loser, whatever that is. And so we've been operating out of fear in that, with that mask on. And so we're asking everybody to strip the mask off, and we're going to live at what God says you are, who you are, and rise up into that original identity. And then as that's stripped away and we start to learn to walk in newness of life, I want everybody to understand what their spiritual gifts are, what their calling is, what they're passionate about, and how they can lean into and really develop all that God has for them. So those are the 2 buckets that we really work on the inside. We're planting those seeds, we're watering it. So when people get out of prison, they really get out with a ministry plan. They know who they are in the kingdom, and they're going to go put that to play once they get settled, once we get the job and the social piece of that taken care of, so that their ground doesn't erode underneath their feet. We want to get them on solid footing, but then really go make a difference for the kingdom. Go back into prison, share your story. Go make a difference in your church. Get involved with other nonprofits. Go across the world and be a missionary if you have no ties. And so I want to mobilize them to be impactful for the kingdom.
Amen.
And that is one of my pet peeves about one of those recovery programs where, hello, my name is such and such, and I'm an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Boom. Well, if that's who you are, then that's who you will always be. And in prison, offender, mm-hmm. When you get labeled with those things, boom, then that's who you are. And people, they drag that into themselves, mm-hmm. and that becomes who you are, and that's what you identify with. And once that's your identity, it's hard to shake that. Mm-hmm. And you need to. You really, I hope you're listening to this. You really need to fight against that, and you need to have a mantra that that's not who you are. You are a priceless child of the one true God. You are wonderfully made in His likeness and image.
Beautifully and wonderfully made.
Yeah, beautifully and wonderfully made. I don't tend to think of myself as beautiful. I'm kind of wonderful.
God says you are.
That's right.
Yeah.
I say you are too.
I am beautiful.
You are beautiful.
I guess. Bold and
We're
beautiful.
fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
I'll share this with you, Bill, and I think you'll get it. Maybe some of the rest of you will too, that God only made a certain number of perfect heads, and the rest of them he put hair on to cover up their shame.
That's
Oh,
right.
is
That's
that why I got all this hair?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. I'm just growing taller than my hair. That's all.
Yeah, your part widens because you're getting taller.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Okay, so then when people are going through your program, then do they have separate housing? Is that the way that works?
Yeah, I mentioned we have 7 transitional houses in the Houston area. We've got 5 for men, 3 for women currently, or excuse me, 2 for women. Looking for the third one right now. So we're all around the Houston area. We try to get them close to the jobs that they get, and then close to our partner churches and volunteers who come over and minister to them and sit around, and I call them kingdom circles, but really it's kind of coaching circles. So successful men and women who care will sit in with them and just say, "Hey, how's your week been? What are you struggling with? What are you running into that you don't know how to solve? Let us walk with you through that." And a lot of these walls that you're running into are really molehills. We can step over them or around them, and we can show you how to do that. So many people come out of prison with grandiose ideas of what they're going to do. And as soon as life hits them in the face, it's like, I'm going to divert back to what I used to do. I don't know why I was trying to climb this ladder. It makes no sense. This is who I am. And it's not. The enemy is just really good at discouraging us during that climb.
Yeah. I kind of was really talking about the in prison classes. The in prison stuff. You have separate housing in prison for the people who are part of your program, or
Gotcha. No, but we're heading that direction. So in the past, we have only held classes in different units around the area, but we're about to launch a God pod, if you will, a dorm that we're going to house everybody together. It's an incentivized dorm. This is something brand new that TDCJ, Texas System, is doing. They're allowing outside entities to come in and completely redecorate, refurbish the place, pull out the old metal benches, put in sofas, chairs, big screen TV, paint the place, put ice machines, popcorn machines, coffee machines, new mattresses inside. So people are incentivized to come for the living conditions and incentivized to stay in there. But in the meantime, we're going to really get them fed with something that's going to last forever.
Yeah.
Interesting. And what is that? What unit is that going to be at? Do you know?
We're starting at the Lynchner facility.
Okay, Lynchner. Okay,
We're
excellent.
familiar with that facility.
Yeah, we are familiar with that. We have not been there in a while.
Yeah.
We'll have to come check it out sometime.
Definitely.
Would love to have you. Incidentally, PEP just went over there too, so they're on that same unit. I've reached out to them. I still got some really strong friends and associates over there. I'm like, hey, we got to do something together and really impact this unit. And they said, we're in. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like.
Have us come do some music with you.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I love that.
All right, we're in. Let us know, but give us plenty of advance notice.
It's right up the block from us.
It is. It's real close. So we would really love to be part of that.
Yeah.
We just need plenty of advance notice. Okay, what else do we need to talk about that's on your heart?
Well, a couple of things I think I would really highlight that God has shown me through my life is that he can do immeasurably more than you could ever ask or imagine. I mentioned that I'm the CEO of the Prison Entrepreneurship Program. That gave me a platform to go all over the country and go talk about prison reform and transformation through Christ and through community. I was invited to the White House twice. I've been to just about every big city in the country to go talk about prison reform and how to prepare a labor force coming out who is motivated to do a great job and help employers out there think about second chance hiring in a little bit different way. Opportunities are growing out here, but it takes community, it takes focus, it takes purpose, it takes commitment. And I think, I'm going to go back to the ownership thing that I mentioned earlier. I've been in recovery for over 30 years, and ownership, I think, is a big piece of that. We all know that the eighth and ninth step are about making a list and making amends. A few years ago, I was able to meet face to face with the two daughters of the man that I killed for a 5.5 hour mediation. I owed them that. And one of the daughters reached out to me, found me through social media, and reached out. And I was super cautious, but also I needed to be caring and nurturing, right? And so she started asking me a bunch of questions, and I said, look, I am so willing to answer any of these questions, but let's not do this together, and let's certainly not do it through texting or messaging. I don't want to cause any more wounds. I've caused plenty enough already. And so I've pulled in some folks here in Texas called the Victim Offender Mediation Dialogue and brought them in to help coach us and prepare us for that mediation. It took about a year. They worked with us for about a year on both sides. And then they wanted to find out, what are the questions that the family has? Do I have the answers? Is this going to be in a positive environment? And so we finally met, and easily the hardest thing I've ever done, and ended up to be the most rewarding, because I got to give them some answers that they can get nowhere else.
Yeah.
And so, I caused so much pain and heartache from making a desperate decision based on my faulty thinking and actions. And it's just not fair that just because my life was in a wreck at the time, that I would wreck others' lives. And so I needed to go back and own that and do what I could to make a difference. And I made a pledge to them that day that, I brought this up earlier, that I want to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And that's my commitment to them, in honor of their father, and also in honor of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And so, going and facing up to them and admitting my faults was hard, but it was the right thing to do. I needed to own that.
Yeah. Amen. Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That is powerful.
That is powerful. And such a blessing for the family, for those daughters, I'm sure.
Thank you for sharing that, Bryan.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
That's
a man move.
That is the ultimate man move. Yeah. And for those that are still living in denial, and you know who you are, nobody else has to know. Hopefully you heard it.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it at that, I guess. It's your journey. Honey, you got anything else?
One thing I might mention is, so I've been out 12 years. I just got married 3 years ago.
Oh,
and
congratulations.
Yeah, it's
so in other words,
first...
wait a minute, hold the phone. So what you're telling me is that you didn't make all these plans while you were inside and then get out and immediately search for the first woman you could find and marry her? That's not what you did?
I love how you recognize that, Stephanie, because I have seen literally hundreds of guys do that. And, really, until you're to the point where you can support a wife and a family, you've got no business jumping into that. And I've shared it with many men that it's like you're in a boat that's really teetering on sinking. Yeah. And all of a sudden you've just changed yourself to somebody else that, and I had a lady come in and taught this at PEP one day, and she was going to teach on some business topics. And she said, what do you want me to teach on, Bryan? I said, right now they're struggling with relationships. Will you talk to them about that? Because it's really needed. She goes, oh, I'd love to. And she was the dynamic, beautiful young graduate student. And she came in and she said, Bryan asked me to talk about relationships with you guys today. So here's what I want you to know that I know. The thirst on the streets is real. And she goes, and I know you guys just came out of the desert and you are thirsty, but not everything that's liquid will quench your thirst. Sometimes it's poison and it will kill you. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, if some young lady is willing to say yes to you straight out of prison, you've just met her, there's something wrong with her. Yeah. And you've just tethered yourself to craziness. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to disparage the ladies out there at all,
Right.
because our men are so desperate for that relationship, they'll run to anything that will say yes. And it's very rarely a healthy relationship comes out of that. And so until you're at a place where you're the type of man that attracts a healthy woman, you've got no business being in a relationship.
Yeah. And Brian, I think the flip side of that coin is also true. As a woman, you should be in a place where you're comfortable, you can take care of yourself, you're confident, and you're secure. Then you should go looking for a man. You shouldn't just grab the first man that you see that you think can take care of you, because men that are looking for a woman who needs a man is not a man who's going to take care of you. He's going to take advantage of you. And when he's done with you, he's going to get rid of you when he's tired of you.
Well,
Yeah, I've shared that with my wife several times early on. I said, one of the most attractive things I find about you is you don't need me. You want me. And I'm like, that there's a comfort level in that. But it also makes me want to rise up into that role. And now I understand much more what my role is in that relationship and in our family now. And I'm there to sacrifice for her. Husbands love your wives in an understanding way, like Christ loved the church, right? He sacrificed for his bride. That's my role. And she's to love and honor me and help me. That's her role. And we need to understand what our roles are. Now that I do, this relationship, this marriage that I have is beyond my dreams. And I'm so glad I waited 57 years for it.
Yeah.
What's your woman's take on what I said?
A different take on this. Yeah, I have a complete unique take on this than you guys, I think, because I haven't served inside. Well, I serve inside, but not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do it voluntarily. But if you're just getting out of prison and you meet someone and a month later you're ready to marry her, you don't have a job, you don't have a house, you don't have an apartment, you don't have a car, you don't have any of that. How can you look her in the eye and say, I love you, but I got nothing to offer you. I'm going to drag you down with me. That's not love.
Yeah.
It's not love until you create in yourself the kind of person that treats that person that you love so much the way that you feel that they should be treated.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Yeah. And I was saying that a woman who just gets out of prison shouldn't go looking for a man.
No, any man that's out for a thirsty woman, because the men that will control you and use you and abuse you, they can spot you a mile away.
Yeah.
And if you're a thirsty woman, boy, that's like ringing the dinner bell.
Yeah, it sure is. And Brian, we've developed. We saw this thing where a woman was talking about how a man is the umbrella, right? And that the woman needs to be able to hold the umbrella up, right? And if you've got this real fancy, expensive umbrella, it might be a little heavy. And if you can't hold up that umbrella, right, you need to be able to hold that umbrella up, right? And at the same time, if that umbrella has got a bunch of spines and nothing, then it's not worth holding up.
Right.
Right. And if you're an umbrella that's not worth holding up, you can't expect that woman to hold you up if you're not providing any shade in the sun. You're not protecting her from the rain. Then she's not going to hold
out and
up,
blow
right?
away the first time a storm comes.
Yeah. And also, by the same token, there are times when rather than holding you up, she needs to fold that umbrella down and set it down and lean on you. She doesn't want protection from the shade. She just wants to lean on you a little bit, right? So there are times where she needs to just calm down, fold down, and let me just lean on you a little bit, right? So there's that aspect of the relationship too.
Yeah.
We just had an event where we were talking about some financial literacy and preparation for our goals that we have in life, and if it's to lead a family and own a home and do those things in the Houston area, you really need to be earning about $75K a year to be able to support a home like that, right? And so we're talking about almost $40 an hour. And so I talk to the guys a lot. I'm like, hey, you can get out in the Houston area and find a $15 an hour job pretty quickly. It's pretty easy. We can get that. And that's fine. And you're going to be excited about that, living in a transitional house, earning $15 an hour, but you're not really getting ahead. So you quickly realize I need to get a car so that I can go a little bit further out and get a better job. But even an entry level car, at best, you better be factoring in 250 to $300 a month for that, even if it's cash car. So now you need to be earning, $19 an hour to support that car, but you're still breaking even. And then if you've got a car, pretty soon you're going to want your own place. And now you better be factoring in to have my own entry level place and a car. I better be making 24, $25 an hour. Yeah. But even then, I'm breaking even with those things and food and insurance and things like that. And if you've got your own place and a car,
you need new tires.
Yeah.
Your transmission.
And sooner or later, you're going to want a girlfriend. And so now you better factor in another $500 a month, or you're not going to have one for very long. Now, all of a sudden, you're at $30 an hour with a girlfriend and a car and a place, but you're still breaking even, right? And you're not getting ahead. And if you want to get to a place where you want to be a homeowner and build your legacy, your home, you've got to get to a place where your skill set is such where you can earn 30, 40, $50 an hour. And most of the people coming out of prison do not have that skill set.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got to do something to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we do?
It depends on, background, experience, skill set. I promote a lot of,
HVAC.
welding, plumbing, HVAC, truck driving, some things
CDLs,
that are, so there's not a lot of barriers to entry for our population, but you can legitimately climb that ladder and earn six figures and take care of a home. You need to think about what is your skill set and what are you passionate about so that, work is not drudgery. You're going to work. Work is worship, and you get to go in excited every day and be able to support your family and live a life abundant like Christ said he came for.
Yeah.
Well, and there are some skills that transcend job skills, and those are being willing to work, being on time, being courteous, being respectful. Those are important in every job. And if you have those, I don't care what job you're on, you're going to be a valued employee. Being flexible for hours, being willing to work overtime, being willing to work weekends, right? Being
having a bad look on your face all day because you
right.
just don't want to be there, and it's obvious to everyone.
Yes, being happy, being flexible when something extra needs to be done. If you're that guy, they're going to want you, right? And then I don't care what your skill set is, you're going to be the guy they want.
I was always the teacher's pet at work. Basically,
I
was the one that as soon as I got a job, I would make sure that any other person in my area, I would learn their job as well, so that I would make myself the most invaluable employee there by knowing everybody's job plus mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a thing.
I love that. The work ethic is huge.
And it is huge.
There was a thing at the Community Reentry Network program. They had a symposium, and one of the people there, I see, it's almost feeding time at the zoo here, and the dogs are going crazy. One of the graduates there asked about getting past the stigma of being previously incarcerated, and so I used some of my biblical Greek knowledge. The word stigma actually is a cognate from biblical Greek. And what stigma means is it is from a brand, from being branded, right? But today, brand also comes from like Nike is a brand, right? And if we think of being incarcerated as a brand, like a brand name, the problem with our brand is it's been branded as we're lowlifes, we're shifty, we can't be counted on,
can't be trusted.
You can't be trusted. We are responsible for our brand, and we need to change our brand so that people think, oh, these people are hungry for jobs. And if we pay them, they're happy to have a paying job. They will come on time. They want extra hours. They want to work weekends. They want to come in. They're happy to be working. And if we can get them to recognize that those are the kind of people they want to hire, then it will be easier to get jobs and keep jobs. And so we need to get them to recognize that that's the kind of brand that they're investing in. And we're responsible for that brand. And we're the only ones that can change the way that brand is recognized.
Where they're actually seeking out formerly incarcerated people
right.
rather than pushing them away. That's
Exactly.
That's the day I envision.
Yeah.
My first job interview that I had when I got out was with a sign shop, because I had done that for several years inside. I had done computer aided design and graphic layout and stuff like that. So that's what I looked for when I got out. And I went to a Fast Signs franchise, and I went in for my interview, and it was the franchise owner. And I handed in my resume that showed 12 years of experience in the sign shop in prison. And he looked at it and he said, "Wow, Bryan, you've got a lot of sign shop experience." And I just looked at him dead in the eye and I said, "Can I be completely honest with you?" And he goes, "Yeah, absolutely." And I said, "I just got out of prison. Not only that, for almost 22 years. And he goes, "Wow. Can I ask why?" I said, "Sure, murder." And he leaned back in his chair and he took his glasses off and he said, "Bryan, I've never had an interview like this before." And I said, "I bet you haven't." And I said, "But can I tell you why you're going to benefit from what happened to me before?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm intrigued." And so I had my testimony ready. I've told it hundreds of times, right? And I was able to tell him my story and show him that I'm not the same person that committed the crime. I'm the person who's going to bring value to your company, that's going to be here every single day, because I'm a creature of habit from my time on the inside. I'm going to be here when I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to go home when I'm supposed to go home. And I promise you, you can't outwork me. I'll work every hour you got that you throw my way. I dare you to try to outwork me. And he smirked a little bit. And I threw out some other things that to show him how he was going to benefit from hiring a returning citizen. And he finally looked at me. He goes, "You make me wonder why I haven't been hiring ex-felons this whole time." I said, "Let's get started. Let's break the trend."
Yeah, right.
See, I thought you were going to
pop that cork.
I thought you were going to say, "I stabbed my previous boss for firing me. My therapist says I can't handle rejection. So do I get the job or what?"
Yeah, I don't think that one would have gone over quite the same.
I can't handle rejection. Do I get the job or what?
No, I don't think that would work.
No?
No.
So? Okay, yeah. Probably a bad idea. You're
Yeah,
right.
probably.
Well, Bryan, sorry. I got a bad sense of humor. I apologize.
Not a recommendation, fellas.
Yeah, definitely not.
Indeed.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And ladies.
Must be time to go.
Must be. I guess he's getting hungry. He's a little delirious.
Yeah. Delirious. Bryan, thank you so very much. Wow. We've done an hour.
Yeah.
Where did the time go?
No, it always amazes me how quickly it goes by once you start getting into interesting conversation.
Yeah. And it's just a conversation. Bryan, thank you so very much. And we really appreciate you reaching out to Stoller. We have not heard from them, but hey, who knows? Maybe someday.
Yeah. Keep us updated so that we can update everybody else on to what's going on with your organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
anybody in Texas, if you're interested in Crosswalk, you want to come to a place, we are all about reentry discipleship, and we're not just a bed and a pillow. If that's all you want, that's right for you. But if you're coming to the Houston area, you can write to our office at 9800 Northwest Freeway, Suite 514 in Houston, Texas, 77092. And we're happy to send you an application
up here.
Yeah.
We will put it up here on the screen for all of y'all, and you can write to. And do they write to you or just to Crosswalk Center, and it'll get to the right person?
It's a Crosswalk. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets the right person.
And can people from out of state write you as well? Because we're getting a lot of requests from out of state of people that
want
to come to
Texas.
Houston.
Yeah.
They're welcome to write to me. If they're interested in housing, please put that. Or if they just want to write, I'll do my best to return.
They're interested in housing. Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah.
Appreciate
excellent.
that. And I look forward to hearing from everybody. I'm sure you will get letters.
Yes,
No doubt about that.
plenty of them.
All right. I guess that's it
Yeah.
then, honey. All right.
Until next
Bryan Kelley, thank you very much. We appreciate you and look forward to hearing from you about joining you and PEP at Pam Lichner. And we'll see all y'all here again sometime again soon right here on The Edge. Bye-bye, y'all.
Yeah. Broken and shattered, but the crash never shaped what mattered. Grace fills the gaps where your life lost traction. This is The Edge, where transformation happens. Where transformation happens.
This is The Edge. Where transformation happens.